So we've looked at the majesty of Olaudah Equiano's imagination, his sheer will and activist persona, and we've seen on the other hand, the very almost sappy and conservative view of Hannah More, who suggests that slavery is worth conversion, and that the Yamba almost should thank her slave owners for taking her into slavery so that she could obtain Christianity, a rather questionable approach, I would say. And then we have the power, the extraordinary imagination of Coleridge, who, of course, has talked about the primary and the secondary imagination, and who illustrates his own ability to make us listen and make us move out of our staid and passive roles in the work and the evil of slavery. And he says, we don't need laws. We just need people to stop eating sugar and rum. If people would stop this, what he calls ostentatious sensibility, these women who have their fine teas and who act like they're against slavery, but go ahead and use the sugar relentlessly, which is, which slaves had to do to make available through backbreaking work. He says, you profess yourself Christians. Would you choose that a slave merchant should incite an intoxicated chieftain to make war on your country and murder your wife and children before your face, or drag them with yourself to the market? Would you choose to be sold, to have the hot iron hiss upon your breasts after having been crammed into the hold of a ship with so many fellow victims, that the heat and stench arising from your diseased body should rot the very planks? You've got a lot of S sounds there, and the K sound, this horror of slavery through the very choice of words and imagery that he comes up with. And he does it at the very bottom of page 109. Then with our fleshly eye should we behold what even now imagination ought to paint to us. And so, as with Kubla Khan, which was such a powerful poem, he is saying, well, if you can't change your government, if you can't make government work for you, then you can use your imagination to come up with creative ways to stop the evil that you see in front of you. Other miseries, though equally certain and far more horrible, they not only do not endeavor to remedy, they support. They fatten on them, provided the dunghill be not before their parlor window. They are well content to know that it exists, and that it is the hotbed of their pestilent luxuries. My goodness, what a voice, what a powerful voice. So there is one criterion by which we may always distinguish benevolence from mere sensibility. Benevolence impels to action and is accompanied by self-denial. And it's almost the sheer active voice that he creates through his imagination here that impels us forward and makes us want to change the world, actually. His words have that power. Then we look at William Cobbett, who is for the working man's rights, but is against the slave's rights. And he suggests, as many other writers of the time period suggest, well, you worry so much about the slaves on foreign soil in the Caribbean, etc., but you worry not at all about the locals, about the working class that may be starving, who don't have a place to live, who don't have food, who don't have clothing to cover them, and the slave does, as though that was a sort of equal comparison to make there. Well, he uses all the tropes, many of the tropes of the of the slave folks, who he basically says, are you going to go against sacred scriptures? Are you going to go against the scriptures, which include a belief in slavery? Are you going to go against all the priests and fathers and confessors and saints and martyrs, all of whom either had slaves or supported slavery? This is God's will. And if you don't follow this, what you are looking for is an era of anarchy and confusion. And he refers to all of this romantic excess, this rebellion, this revolution as frightening and unstable for people, and that what they should be looking for is stability. And that those who are seeking, those who are anti-slavery are seeking the fall of their own government, the instability of their own society. Let me stop for a minute here. Cobbett then ends this piece with this continued discussion about, well, if you want to be anti-slavery, then you're going to make the whole society fall apart. And he links this radical movement of anti-slavery with the French. And of course, the British at this time hate the French. They're in a war with them. They hate their value system. They hate the way the French Revolution was so violent. And they believed that they were a government of rules and laws, and that watching the French with their horrifying guillotine and their tearing their whole country apart through revolution was a terrible sight to see, and that the British would never want to go in that direction. And so he links his argument with that idea that anybody who is anti-slavery is aligned with the French. And so I hope you can see the many different tropes and approaches through the imagination that these writers use to talk about slavery.